Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Road End podcast. Each episode we will speak to a new guest, get to know them and hear their stories about Liverpool Football Club.
Hi everyone and welcome to Season 2 of the Road End podcast. Today I'm joined by Ryland Morgans. Ryland is the former Head of Fitness and Science at Liverpool Football Club. Thanks for joining today, Ryland. How are you doing?
No problem at all. I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Good. It's good to have you on.
Thank you very much for the invite. Bit of a blast from the past.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just trying to get a perspective of people from one of the most important times of my generation anyway. So let's start with your time at Liverpool, Head of Fitness and Science. How did the move to Liverpool come about for you?
In most cases, when new staff come, there's a new manager. I'd obviously worked with Brendan previously at Swansea when we got promoted, and then the first year in the Premier League, and then kind of got the invite to join in and come up north. So that was the connection and the process really.
How was it transitioning from the south of Wales to Liverpool?
Fine, in terms of parts of the country, I'd worked in many different parts of the country by the time I came up to Liverpool at previous clubs. So moving to a different part of the country, that was no problem. In terms of moving from previous clubs to Liverpool, that's obviously a different conversation. But different part of the country, that's no problem.
How was the pressure at Liverpool in comparison to at Swansea?
I think Liverpool to any other club. Or most other clubs is a big comparison. I think probably to try and do it just against Swansea might be singling out. But if I just compared it to previous clubs I've worked at, not just Swansea, then it is what it is. It is what it says on the tin. Really, is that when you're at a different type of club, staying in the Premier League or not having the high levels of expectancy to win every game, be challenging for everything that's available. Europe Cups, places in the league, but when you're at Liverpool, that is the expectancy from the moment you enter to the time that you leave, and obviously that of course that comes with pressure in terms of expectancy, and it's when you're in a club like that from the outside, obviously looking at a club like that for many years, what you probably don't realize is just how big it is. And I know that's a bit of a cliche thing to say or whatever, but outside looking in, it looks massive. Inside looking out, it's even bigger, especially, and that was probably prevalent for me when we'd go to all over the world on pre-season tours and things like that. It was, it was just another level of support, I suppose, around the globe, not just in the UK or Europe.
What does the Head of Fitness and Science entail?
Quite a broad area, really. But I suppose, I kind of came out of a coaching football background underpinned by science and, those kind of things. So my role, I made sure that was everything that I delivered as a practitioner on the grass was related to the technical and tactical demands of the game for the players. And that's different in different positions. But underneath that, from seeing what you see on the grass in a drill, the underpinning principles are based around scientific principles. And while I was at Liverpool, I did my own PhD, and a lot of the stuff I did for my PhD was about how players' demands in matches, technically and physically, they changed across a season. And as a result of those differences in demands, how were the recovery responses to those players? So putting in different measures and markers to monitor and measure fatigue in different ways. So I suppose that the continuum, if science is at the very far left of the continuum and coaching practices with out and out coaches is on the other end of the continuum, then I kind of would slide across that continuum when and where needed. Beyond that, it was aligning our fitness methods, our monitoring methods, our recovery, our nutrition, kind of aligning and aligning all of that with our tactical strategies and philosophies. And again, as I said, based on science that we were doing on our players. So it's the contextual message of, there's loads of science and research out in the world, but we want to make the impact on our decision-making process that's suitable for the players that we have, not taking a concept or a theory from a different cohort of players in a different part of the world and taking those principles, because then you just got to apply them and see if they fit. So that's kind of the broader area of the work. And as I said, aligning all those different departments of strength and conditioning, helping support the rehabilitation processes, just kind of, all of that really.
Plenty of responsibility then.
Yeah, that I think that comes with any job you've got in any professional club, regardless of a club the size of Liverpool. Everyone has their own responsibility and accountability in their remit. So yeah, it kind of goes with the course, I suppose.
You've obviously worked with some incredible athletes through your career, because I've seen you've worked in club and country. Which athletes would you say stood out? So obviously I'm going to look at the likes of my heroes, the Gerrards and people like that, and the Suarez who you could kick for 10 minutes and he'd still get up. Who stands out for you?
Well, definitely those two. That would be unquestionable. And obviously, I think when I dealt with someone like Stevie and worked with him, he is what he is. He's fantastic, on and off the pitch as a person, and obviously everyone knows what he is as a player. I don't need to mention those kind of things. But he had a different way about, and as he was getting older, he realised that, and he realised he maybe needed to train a different way, recover a different way, and look after himself, which he was exemplary at. There was no having to force him to do anything. He'd be right on the button, and he had exceptionally high standards from himself, and obviously that drifted out into everyone else. So and I would have loved to have worked with him when he was a little bit younger. Not that I didn't enjoy working with him when I did. Obviously that's a fantastic highlight of my career, and I would count myself fortunate to have been able to work with him. But as I said, he was coming towards the end, not the end, but towards it. Suarez, as you've said, he was a machine. Really, he was unbelievable. Like you say, you could kick him from pillar to post, and he'd still get up, nutmeg someone, and still score. So I've got a few stories about how he would cope with his mentality of coping with pain, completely different to any other player I've probably ever experienced. Coutinho as an athlete, supreme. But different physical attributes and different technical and tactical attributes. I'd have to come out of Liverpool then and look at maybe someone like Gareth Bale, Aaron Ramsey, and even coming back into the club, as you've said, they're an out-and-out athlete, then probably Jordan Henderson as a familiar name to my time, and obviously still there, and Milner. Those two are, in terms of their running stats and their capabilities around the pitch. Yeah, don't ask me to give you a top five, because I think that would be quite tough. But those names are certainly in and around that bracket. They were all of those guys in a different way. Fantastic athletes, fantastic professionals. And as I said, I've been fortunate to, and I appreciate that and recognise that, to have been able to work with them during my career.
So a lot of players tell us about playing through the pain barrier, but they briefly mention it. How often does this happen with the injections? Is that a familiar thing that you see?
No, injections, I can't sit here and say they don't exist, because obviously everyone is aware that they do. But from the doctors and medical staff that I've dealt with, they were very, very few and far between.
I'd imagine someone like Suarez, I heard the story about him. He had to wear Steven Gerrard's boot a couple of sizes too big when something happened to his foot.
That is true. I was with him at that time. We played Hull that game, and I don't know if you remember, but he scored the free kick from outside the box in front of the Kop end. So yeah, that is a true story.
What has happened there with his foot?
I think he's just taken a kick, if I'm honest. I can't remember the full details, but I think he's just taken a kick. I can't even remember where on his foot, but he like you said, he got Stevie's boots and wore those, and stuck one in the top bins in front of the Kop. So and I think where he's hit the ball, I think when I remember watching it back in slow-mo, is that it was the area of his foot that would have been hurting. So it's but to kick one ball, but it's running around the pitch and completing the 95 minutes, as well as just kicking the one ball and the risk of getting kicked again. So things like that. He was a machine with stuff like that. But you talk about that pain barrier. I remember going down to QPR to play a league game. I think it must have been a midweek game, and Jordan Henderson had like sickness and diarrhea through the night. Travelled down in his own carriage on the train, so he didn't pass it on to anyone else. And don't think he ate much, drank much all the way through the game. When we sat in the hotels, goes out and was outstanding, as I remember. So he's another one that, off the top of my head, got through the pain barrier, if you like, and that's a different type of pain.
Yeah, definitely. But it's one that you don't want to happen on the pitch.
No, definitely not. The tunnel's not close enough when you have those moments.
Okay, so what I was going to ask you before was, you was part of the, let's say, unbelievable seasons under Brendan. Don't get me wrong, and no disrespect to everything else that happened, but that season when we came so close, obviously it was painful for us as fans, as you can imagine. And what was the atmosphere like after that Chelsea performance at Anfield?
Listen, football's not life and death, and I know we know from people that have worked at our club that it's more important than things like that, but it certainly does feel that you've lost someone and someone has passed away. It's a tough moment, when you look around the room with the experience and just the quality of the players that I can pick them all out, but I know this is about the club and the legend that is Steven Gerrard at Liverpool. It's like, I suppose when I think back to the moment, I felt for them all because I thoroughly thought they deserved it. But then for someone like Steven, with the career he's had and the things he's achieved and everything that he is, not just to Liverpool, but to England and world football, he was, he really, really thoroughly deserved it. And I suppose that moment was hard for him, hard for the players, the staff, everything else. But, I suppose on a personal human level, he'd probably be one that, you thought, yeah, he deserved that with everything he's done in the game. He really did deserve it. But they all did in that season. They all thoroughly deserved it. And, it was devastating. And, for all of us getting that close to winning a title is, to lose it at that moment in that way was, with obviously Steven being involved with the slip and stuff like that, it's still painful now for you as well as me. So I think we're in the same boat there.
The slip was obviously painful for us as fans, but I think there was more pain in that game than that corner from Aspas.
Yeah, of course. And then Torres runs down the other end and passes it square because he obviously didn't want to score the goal, did he? He passes it square and gets tapped in, So that's a decision-making moment. It's a significant moment. It's would we have got the goal anyway moment.
Yeah.
So we talk about the corner, of course, but we could have talked about us conceding a goal late on when we had a square ball across the box at West Brom away. So it's it's not all about that game. Fine margins, millimeter margins. And bad decision, bad moment. Obviously, cost us some result in the goal, but we could probably go back through the season and look at other moments that we think, we should have won there and we didn't.
Yeah.
And as that cost us the title, but no one thinks about those moments. Everyone just thinks about the Chelsea game moment, which is probably not a true reflection of any of that at that time.
We all look back at that season and think, wow, because, I was getting into the game sometimes 10 minutes late or whatever, for whatever reason, and we were already 2 or 3-0 up.
Well, if you'd have got there on 20 minutes after kick-off, Arsenal at home would have been 4 up. Fantastic. Everton at home in the lights, 5-1. Tottenham away. Was Tottenham away 5-0? That might not have been that season, I don't think. But, some monumental games and performances. And,
I'm sure John Flanagan scored that game at Tottenham away, didn't he?
Yeah, he comes in off the left back at the far post, and it's a cut back from the byline, I think, from Coutinho, and he hits it on the half volley in the top corner with his right foot.
Your time at Liverpool came to an end in 2016, nearly 4 years at the club. So what changed from when you started with the club to what you left? Do you feel like you made a mark on certain things?
That's not for me to answer. I'll let other people decide their opinion on that, because the beauty of football is all about opinion, isn't it? Sometimes it's not valid opinion, but and maybe not backed up with evidence or science or anything like that, but it's an opinion. I would like to think so. I know I dedicated everything I could to that period of time to improve everything that I worked in or with or a part of. My PhD and my research was to gain information to impact on the players. So I would like to think so. And there's periods of time that we were fantastic in that season, and there were periods of time when we weren't, and that's it's the ebbs and flows and the of any team, really. The consistency is the key. But I think from the team that we had at the start to the team we had at the end, you could clearly see there was that middle period, the 13-14 season we're talking about, and but before it and after it, there's obviously a transition period of what we're trying to get to, and things like that, and you could see that in the type of players that came in at different moments during my time. So we can all be honest, can't we? See some great ones, some that fitted Liverpool, and maybe some that didn't quite fit Liverpool at the time. So but in terms of my work, I think I'll leave that one to others to. If I say something, I'll get hammered for it, won't I? So I'll keep my peace on that one.
Okay, so you're in a consultancy role now. How's it going? Do you have any plans to be full-time again with the club, or are you just enjoying this period?
To be fair, since I've come out, I've been really fortunate with some of the projects I've had with some national teams, which have been brilliant, really, for me. I do quite a lot of consultancy now, and that's still in the same space as what I'm doing: research, applied research within the performance and coaching environments, building staff structures, staff education, research and publications. That's all with very, very similar to all of my work at club or country, but maybe just more isolated from being on the pitch every minute of every day. So I'm getting older now, as we all are. So running around a pitch with the players and doing all those drills and those activities, I'm not sure my grey hair will keep up with them anymore. But working in a club and a club like Liverpool is fantastic, and going to do it again, I would never say never. But I think as I'm getting older, it's about working with good people in a good project, and sometimes, depending on the club, depending on the context of the club and the situation, sometimes that's hard to find. It might be a fighting relegation moment. It might be a just missed out on Champions League moment. It's, so there's always pressures and expectancies. So I think I would, but I suppose there's a few questions to discuss prior to it. But yeah, I miss the day to day. It's football, isn't it? It's, when you're in it, it's in your blood type thing, isn't it? So but I'm all right at the moment.
I've got a couple of questions from listeners. Many fans believe that as top paid footballers, the players should perform like robots, but fatigue must be a big issue. How is this controlled fitness-wise?
There's several markers that we can look at to physiologically monitor the players and see how those match demands or training demands have caused stress on the players. So you and I, for example, we can both cover 10 kilometers at different speeds and different thresholds, but your recovery responses and the duration of your recovery responses will take longer than mine for different reasons and different makeups, genetics, aerobic capacity, different types of muscle fibers, or different profiles of players from different positions. Your centre midfield players will do more volume of work, whereas your wide players and your forward players generally will produce more high intensity and sprint type work, and different types of running mechanics and running metrics will cause different types of fatigue responses. So there's loads of different ways. You can monitor things like sleep patterns, saliva markers for your immune system and hormonal responses. There's jumping performance, so to measure your power output and your central nervous fatigue system. They can be monitored on a daily and weekly basis. You can look at heart rate variability. So how does your heart respond to a standardized period of work, such as on a spin bike? So there's lots of different ways to monitor players.
Okay.
So no hide in place.
Yeah. So obviously you've seen Liverpool last season. They were fighting on all fronts, 60 plus games in the season. How common is burnout after such a big season, let's say?
It's hard because there'll be different layers of fatigue and different layers of overreaching, which is a short period of time, and the stress that's caused. But there'll be as much mental fatigue to those moments as there will be physical fatigue. And obviously, when those players come off the back of that type of season, then they're going potentially into international competitions through the summer. But complete out and out burnout, there's no real narrative or evidence to support that is a fundamental scientific proven concept. It might be a narrative. People will sit back one day and go, "Oh, look, they've blown up, they're burnt out, they're done." But there's no evidence for that, because I bet if you compared physical data during those periods, then there might not be huge differences. There might not be huge differences tactically. There might just be some issues mentally. There might be some issues around, you know, the tactical decision-making processes, because we all know that when players are physically tired, their mental decision-making processes are also impaired. So, you know, it's not, oh, they did a bit more running and they're burnt out and they're done. I think it needs to be a little bit more scientifically proven and founded, if you like, that type of narrative. Because if we can do that, then we can help prevent that. When we get a flagging system, we can help try and prevent that before it occurs in each individual. Because, as I said, you and I will respond to the same stimulus in different ways. So it's about knowing the individualized responses to workload.
Okay. Can you describe a typical week and build up to an away game?
Is this a Champions League week or is this a Saturday to Saturday week?
Well, let's go with a Saturday to Saturday.
Okay, so there's different models and methods of how do you microcycle and periodize your working week. So let's say we've played on Saturday. You can either bring the players in on a Sunday and then everyone's off on a Monday. So on a Sunday, you've got a split group of players that have played and players that haven't played. So they'll be doing completely different work. One group will be recovering. One group will be doing compensation top-up work to add up their accumulative load for different metrics because they've missed the Saturday match. Everyone's off on a Sunday. Tuesday, Wednesday are your tactically and physically loaded days. Tuesday would be, your -4, so -4, 3, 2, 1 type thing. And then that would be heavily dominated by arguably out of possession strategies, where you're all talking about how you're going to press, when you're going to press, where are you going to press, and the repeated bouts effect of that to be able to press, recover, and do it again. So that would generally be done in moderate to smaller spaces on a -4, then a -3, which would be your Wednesday. Then you're going to be taking the players out tactically, maybe looking at more in possession strategies. So how do we build to the thirds? How do we create crossing and shooting positions in the final third, but then ultimately covering larger spaces and for longer periods of time. So you'd end up here in maybe 11v11 size games for players, and almost a box to box or full sized pitch. And then you're looking at, instead of 4 or 5 minute blocks on a -4, you may be looking at 8, 9, 10 minute blocks on a -3. Here in this metric, as I said, you're looking at your in possession type tactics, and then physically you're looking at greater volume of work. So -4 might be 4.5, 5,000 meters, 5,500 meters, whereas your -3 is maybe looking at 6,500 to 7,000 meters. But you're also looking at high intensity running on an individualized basis, and your sprint exposures, which is not only an injury preventer but a performance indicator. And then you're looking to individualize those thresholds and the volume of that for each player. -2, your Thursday, that's bringing the now you've done 2 loaded days and 2 high days of work and intensity. Now you're looking to protect the players on a Thursday, Friday, because you're now looking at within a 48-hour cycle to kick off on a Saturday. So Thursday is generally smaller spaces, but real high quality of action. So short, sharp, explosive sprints, generally simple format. And then you're going into something like a small, tight little possession, maybe a 4v4 plus 3 times 3 minutes with a 90-second recovery. And then you might be finishing off the session with two groups, 10 players in each group, split over one working into one goal in the final third on several specific patterns of play, and then your other group working in the other goal, again in the final third, in and around the box, but working on different patterns of play. 10 minutes or 10, 12, 15 minutes on each, swap over. There's your 25, 30 minutes of working time for that, and then finished. Your -1, your Friday is generally a very standardized session in terms of content. But what obviously does change week to week is the tactical information that's probably started from your -4 sessions all the way through and recapped on your -1. But the standard content of session might be your warm up and a little reaction, fun, reactive game. Then maybe into your 8v2 type boxes, your banter, your rondos, and then looking at potentially a small-sided possession or a small-sided game over a restricted space. Maybe still 10v10. Your 10 shapes up as what our 10 is going to be. The opposition 10 shape up as to what the away team we think are going to be tomorrow. 2 times 4 minutes, finish off by standardising and recapping on set plays, off the pitch and away you go. Get on the bus, get on a bus to a train or get on a bus to a plane, fly down, land, team meeting, dinner, bed, breakfast in the morning, mid-morning walk, pre-match meal, corresponding to 3.5 hours prior to kick-off, final team meeting. Might have been a team meeting in the morning, depending if there's something to be covered off. Yeah, get on a bus, get to the ground and win, huh?
I like the last bit, the win bit.
Yeah, don't we all? But then you do all of that and then you might not win. It's heartbreaking.
We are now going to do a quick fire round with our guests. This could be very controversial.
Lastly, I will finish with a couple of questions for yourself. It's a bit of a quick fire round, nothing major. There's 3 or 4 questions. So you've got a big drive ahead. Who's your go-to album or singer?
In the players I obviously worked with.
Yeah.
Oh. Not sure about the singers because singing wasn't part of the initiation at Liverpool. Whereas, as you know, it is at a lot of other clubs. DJ, Glenn Johnson.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Mamadou Sakho's playlist was half decent as well. I give him that. Thinking about it, he wasn't bad either.
Was he as nuts as he looked?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a great guy.
Yeah, good. Okay. You've worked at both. So Liverpool or Everton? Be careful.
Yeah, I know. I can obviously see the red in the background on your page, so I'll say there's an obvious one, but I'll take the 5th. But there's an obvious one.
Do you prefer to work at club level or country level? Because obviously, I imagine country level there's quite a lot of breaks in between. So what was best for you?
Through my time at Liverpool, I was fortunate to do both, so it was a fantastic mix and a blend for me. I thoroughly enjoyed both roles, and like you say, they are slightly different roles, but thoroughly enjoyed both. The actual roles were similar for me, or pretty much identical, I suppose, in both setups. So yeah, it was brilliant, and I don't know, that's quite hard, I suppose, because I relate my time at national team, even though I've done 3 other national teams. I associate my national team work with Wales. So obviously, it's the land of your fathers, and there's a passion and connection to your people, I suppose. But yeah, working at club level at a place like Liverpool is an opportunity that I've been thankful for, and they don't come around often. So it was tough. That I think I'm not sure I can get you an answer on that one.
Very on the fence. Okay, so
I've learned politics in the game as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're all trained really well. Okay, last question. Which player looked after themselves most?
In the group I had, I'd probably have 3. Milner, you don't get to play in that number of games, staying at that level, staying at a club like Liverpool for so long, doing it from 16, I think, or 15, he was out on the first team with Leeds. He's like granite. When you bang into him, he's like a brick wall. So he's fantastic. Real model pro. I think he even gets a bit of banter about how healthy he is with his, not even a decent biscuits, a rich tea in it or something like that. So him, he'd be up there. Jordan Henson, he's another one. He'd be up there. And obviously the man himself, Stevie. He always looked after himself well. And anytime I had any dealings or conversations with him about lifestyle and diet and food and things like that, he was he was on it as well. And then I'd have a couple outside of Liverpool, but based on the players I worked with at the club, they would probably be the 3 that stand out. I might have missed someone, and if I have, I apologise.
Right, I just want to say a massive thank you for coming on today and agreeing to come on so short notice. Basically,
No problem.
It's been really good to listen into your stories, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of the Liverpool fan base for obviously the hard work you've put in for the club, but also for the players and the staff at the time that you was at the club. It didn't go amiss, and it's gave us memories for a lifetime. So I'd just like to thank you for that.
I really appreciate that. I don't think I have the words to thank you for that. That's very much appreciated. Thank you very much.
No problem. And, good luck with your future, and hopefully I'll be able to catch up with you soon.
Definitely look forward to it. Thanks very much for the invite.
Cheers, Ryland.
Cheers now. Take care. Bye.
Thanks to everyone for listening in to today's podcast, and thank you to our amazing guests. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. Don't forget to follow us on social media, twitter.com/The Road End Pod, and on Instagram, Instagram/The Road End Pod.